They say curiosity is a door. Once opened, you can't unsee what's inside. I thought I was just ambitious, driven, willing to go where others wouldn't. I never imagined that one dinner would change the entire trajectory of my life. It started with a card, no return address, just a symbol embossed in gold, a serpent devouring its tail, and beneath it, 4 Latin words, vocatus, non invitatus, called, not invited. At first, I thought it was a prank, a test maybe. I'd just been promoted, moved into a position with more access, more oversight. I was surrounded by power I didn't fully understand yet. People with old names, old money, and very new appetites. The card led to a time, a location, no RSVP, no contact. I showed up anyway. The place wasn't a club, at least not in the conventional sense. It was more like a sanctum, underground, lit only by candles. The walls were lined with portraits of people whose eyes seemed wrong, too human somehow. I wasn't alone. 12 men, 2 women, faces I recognized from headlines, boardrooms, and books that aren't in public libraries. They didn't greet me, didn't introduce themselves. One of them simply said, "You've made it this far, now prove you want more." I still remember the chill in my spine when they brought out the bowl. It looked ancient, black stone, etched with something that shimmered slightly under the candlelight. The instructions were whispered, not all at once, not in English. The ritual began. That night, I stopped being who I was and started becoming what they needed me to be. But I wasn't ready for the price. That was 14 years ago, and I've been trying to forget what I did to pass ever since. There's a belief among certain circles I now know were never meant to intersect, that real power doesn't shout. It doesn't wear uniforms or sit behind podiums. It gathers in silence. It watches, and when it moves, the world changes, but no one sees the hand. That's what the organization was. Not a cult, not exactly, not a business either. It was an agreement among those who'd seen too much to pretend otherwise. Most people think secret societies are about politics or money, but that's only the surface. The real ones, the ones that don't have names, they're about control over memory, over perception, over permission. They don't recruit, they wait, and if you find them, it means you've already passed the first test. Proximity without understanding. Once inside, you learn there are rules, unspoken but absolute. Never speak a name aloud, never write anything down, never arrive or leave at the same time as another, and never ask who the oldest member is. Because they don't die, at least not in the usual way. We met once a quarter, always in different places, abandoned churches, private bunkers. Once on a train that never stopped, running loops through rural Europe at night. Each gathering had an initiation, a test for the new one. Some were physical, others psychological. One man was asked to watch a reel of footage alone in a locked room. When he came out, his hair had turned white. He never spoke again, but they said he passed. Another woman was instructed to burn her only family photo, not a copy, the original. She hesitated for 2 minutes, then dropped it into the flame. She now owns 7 companies that don't appear on any registry. There were legends, too, about a man who tried to leave. He sent an encrypted message to an outsider. A week later, every device he'd ever touched, phone, laptop, even a hotel room keypad, was found melted from the inside out. His name has been erased from all public databases. I've searched. He doesn't exist anymore. The point isn't to test loyalty. It's to sever ties to everything that came before, to step into a different reality, or near him. One that operates underneath the world you thought was real, and to understand that once you're in, there's no backdoor. They said I would be tested, but not told how. That was the second rule. The trial begins when you least expect it. I thought I'd already done it. I thought the invitation, the dinner, the acceptance, that was it. I was wrong. It started on a Thursday. I was at work, everything normal, phone calls, emails, noise. But then, everything got quiet. Not just around me, inside me. I looked down at my watch. The hands were spinning counterclockwise. And in that moment, I knew it had started. At 11:47 p.m. that night, my apartment buzzer rang once, then twice, then stopped. On the floor outside was a plain black box. Inside, a key, old, iron, heavy, cold to the touch. And a note. The door will find you. Do not run. Do not bring anything. Do not speak. At 1:03 a.m., my hallway shifted. Not visibly, but the light changed. The shadows deepened, the air grew thick, and a door appeared. Not a metaphor. A literal door, old wood, carved, with the same serpent symbol from the card. No hinges, no frame, just standing there. I opened it. Behind it, a corridor, stone walls, wet, the smell of mold and something older, the kind of scent that clings to ancient libraries and forgotten catacombs. I walked. The corridor bent space. I could feel myself descending, though I never stepped down. Then I entered the chamber. It was circular, no visible light source, but everything glowed with a dim warmth, like a memory half remembered. In the center, on a chair, one of the elders was already there. I'd seen him once, a politician, or something worse. He said nothing, just gestured to the chair. I sat. A blindfold was placed over my eyes. Silence, then whispers. In a language I don't speak but understood. They asked questions about my past, my regrets, my boundaries. They knew things I'd never spoken aloud. They asked me about the night I almost took my own life. They asked me why I stopped. They asked me if I'd be willing to finish the job if it meant I'd understand the truth. And I said yes, not because I meant it, but because I knew it was what they wanted to hear. That was my real test, and it passed through me like smoke. When they removed the blindfold, the chamber was empty, but on the chair was a vial, a clear liquid, no smell, and another note. You may drink or not. Either way, you've already begun. I drank. It tasted like ice melting in a silver bowl. And then everything shifted. The chair was gone. The walls were now mirrors, but none of the reflections were mine. They were versions of me, some older, some disfigured, some smiling in a way that wasn't human. I don't know how long I stood there, but when I walked back through the corridor, the door was gone. And outside, the sun was rising, but the light didn't feel warm anymore. It felt like surveillance. I thought the trial was over, but the truth is that was just the welcome. After the door, everything in my life looked the same, but felt wrong. The air in my apartment was too still. My reflection blinked a split second late. People I knew avoided my eyes or stared too long. I started receiving packages, no sender. Inside, a cassette tape with no sound but heavy breathing, a feather soaked in wax. One half of a torn photograph, my own face burned out. Each came with a message. You are now between. I began dreaming of the chamber again, but it changed each night. The symbols moved. The mirrors showed strangers wearing my memories like costumes. And always the same voice. You said yes, that means you don't stop. Then came the second summons. This time there was no key, no door, just a stranger at my office, well-dressed, unremarkable. He handed me an envelope and walked away. Inside, a location, a forest, no roads, and a time, 3:33 a.m. I drove, left the car miles out, hiked in silence. There in the woods, circle of stones. Inside, a wooden table, empty, except for a single photograph. Not mine, someone else's. Young, scared, a woman, I'd never seen her. And behind it, a box. There were instructions. Simple. Choose, keep the photo or burn it. That's all it said. But something in me knew it wasn't symbolic. I don't know who she was, but I knew if I burned it, she would be gone. Not hurt, not moved. Erased. My hands shook, my throat dried. This was the real initiation. Not about proving strength, but obedience. The ability to act without knowing. And the horror? I hesitated, not because I cared, but because I wanted to know what would happen. Eventually, I dropped the match. The photo curled, vanished in orange. The fire made no smoke. I stood there, waiting. Nothing happened. Not then. But when I returned to the world, I noticed her missing from things. Ads, articles, a billboard I swore she was on, blank. I checked online. No name, no existence, like she had never been. And that's when I understood. I hadn't passed a test. I had been used. To do the one thing all power seeks, to erase, quietly, permanently. And once you've erased someone once, they know you'll do it again. Because now you've proven you'll follow the whisper, even if it walks you off a cliff. After that night in the woods, I stopped trying to pretend. I still went to work, still paid bills, still shook hands at events, but I wasn't there. I was watching myself from just behind my own eyes. The organization didn't contact me for a while, but that was the most terrifying part, because it meant they didn't need to anymore. They tested me, branded me. I had proven I was moldable, disposable, useful, and I started noticing things in the silence. Like when someone on the train said a certain phrase under their breath, and 3 people turned their heads at once. Or when I logged into a private browser and saw a blinking cursor already waiting in the search bar, spelling out my name backward. Then the dreams returned. But they weren't dreams, not really. I'd wake up in different places. Once I was standing in the middle of a traffic tunnel. Another time, in a church that had burned down years ago. No memory of getting there. But always, and I had something in my hand. A token, a letter, an object I couldn't recognize but somehow knew was important. I stopped asking questions, stopped calling it paranoia, because it wasn't. It was protocol. That's what they call it when something deeper than fear sets in. Not panic, obedience. I tried to talk to someone once, someone I trusted. I told him pieces, not everything. 3 days later, he sent me a voice message. It was only 6 seconds long. A whisper. You shouldn't have brought it into the light. I never heard from him again. His number disconnected, his apartment empty, like he'd never lived there. And now I live in a kind of half-light. I know too much to forget, but not enough to escape. They've never asked me to do anything again. But sometimes I wake up with dirt under my fingernails, or bruises in places I can't explain, or a scrap of I don't know what I've done, or maybe I do. But the worst part isn't the guilt. It's the calm, the understanding, that I've become part of the silence, a whisper in someone else's story. And maybe one day, someone will choose to burn my photo, and I won't even know I existed at all. They say when you look too long into the dark, it starts to recognize you. I used to think that was poetic. Now I know it's instruction. The door that opened for me, it never really closed. It's still there, just behind the fabric of things, behind polite handshakes, behind sudden silences in conversations, behind the voice in your head that says, don't ask, just go. I've met people who live entire lives never realizing how close they've come, that the dinner they skipped, the handshake they declined, the job they turned down, saved them. Because some invitations aren't printed. They're encoded in bloodline, in regret, in hunger. If someone ever offers you access to the real room, if they ask you to prove you're willing to go deeper, if the initiation doesn't feel like a test, but like a choice you've already made, walk away. Don't open the box, don't drink the vial, don't say yes to anything that doesn't explain itself. Because once you're inside, you're not part of a club. You're part of a function, a mechanism designed to erase, to silence, to maintain the illusion that the world runs on laws and reason, not on blood and shadows. And if you think this is just a story, just a creepy bedtime whisper from a stranger online, ask yourself why you're still here, why you haven't looked away, why some part of you recognizes what I'm saying. Because maybe you've already seen the door. Maybe you've just never noticed it move. And maybe it's waiting right now behind you. If you've ever felt like there's something just out of reach, something cold watching, deciding, like this video, subscribe to the channel. We tell the stories that were never meant to leave the room. And if you missed the last one, about a sommelier who discovered a bottle that wasn't wine, but memory. Watch. He opened a $100,000 bottle. What poured out wasn't wine. Because some things don't just stay buried. They wait for someone foolish enough to look.